Hello and welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to study chapter 2.3, recruitment, selection and training of employees. Okay, out of which we'll be studying 2.3.1, recruitment and selecting employees. Today we'll be covering the topics according to the syllabus one by one. Number one, we have to look at recruitment and selection methods. So the first question you have to ask yourself, in a company, who is actually responsible to recruit somebody? Who is going to recruit somebody? Okay, the answer comes the HR department, the human resources department. Okay, very easy. Human resources. You see, human resources, resources that are human. Yeah. Okay. So, what are the roles of the HR department? Okay, and how do they recruit, or the selection process, as to say. Okay, HR department recruits and selects, attracting and selecting the best candidates for job posts, right? So easy as that, really. Wages and salaries, set wages and salaries that attract and retain employees as well as motivate them. HR also has to maintain industrial relations. Okay, so they must keep effective communication between management and workforce to solve complaints and dispute, as well as discuss ideas and suggestions. Okay, so HR department doesn't only recruit you, it also listens to you, as to speak. Okay, so they'll listen to you, they'll solve your problems, okay, so that you work effectively. So they are responsible for hiring and firing you. Okay, they are also responsible for training programs. Okay, give employees training to increase their productivity and effectiveness. Okay, so for example, if you're working at a place and let's say you've been working there for 10 years and now maybe a new technology has come in and your old ways are no good anymore, they will give you training. Instead of recruiting somebody else who already knows how to use the machine, they'll give you training because you've been working with them for 10 years, and they kind of trust you because you've been working there for a long time, so they kind of like you. Also they give you training programs and they'll try to make you a better person rather than hire somebody who's brand new and they don't know whether he'll do the work or not, right? Whereas you've been working for 10 years. Okay, they are also responsible for health and safety. All laws of health and safety conditions in the workplace should be adhered to. So okay, they will make sure that you adhere to all the rules, right? So they are also responsible for redundancy and dismissal. Okay, so they would discuss, managers would go to HR department and discuss whether they are satisfied or unsatisfied with the employee, and they would hire and fire them as needed. Okay, now we come to the main topic, which is recruitment. What is the recruitment? Recruitment is the process from identifying that the business needs an employee, okay, someone up to the point where applicant has arrived at the business. Okay, so recruitment is the process of identifying that the business, basically is the process from identifying that a business needs an employee or a person, okay, to get them to until they get them to the point where they arrive at the business. This is called recruitment. Okay, so as soon as the company decides we need somebody for certain position or something, okay, or we need 10 employees for a certain position or something, right, until they get to the company, okay, the whole process in between is called the recruitment process. So with that clear in our head, we go to how vacancies are made, right? So we need to understand how vacancies are made, okay, in order to understand internal and external recruitment, the next topic. Okay, first we have to understand what is a vacancy and how it is made. Okay, vacancy arises when an employee resigns from a job or is dismissed, okay, by the management. When a vacancy arises, a job analysis has to be prepared. Okay, so when somebody leaves a company, the company decides well, do we need to replace another person over here? What are the job requirements? Okay, and who, they need to make sure the person they are hiring is actually fit for the position. Okay, so first they need to know what the responsibilities were of the position in order to recruit somebody for that position. Okay, so a job analysis has to be prepared, right? A job analysis identifies and records the task and responsibilities related to the job. Okay, so let's say, for example, somebody has retired. Okay, what were his jobs and what were his responsibilities, and now they need to recruit somebody who can fulfill those requirements. Okay, so basically what it does is tells the recruitment managers what is needed of the person that you have to recruit, basically. Okay, so when a job description is prepared, the outline the responsibilities and duties to be carried out by someone employed to do this job, right? So how do you analyze jobs? Okay, the first thing you do is job description. Second thing you do is job specification. Okay, so job description is basically very easy. Job title. Okay, what would you be employed as? Job location, job summary report, who would you report to, working condition, job duties, what will be your duties, machines to be used, and the hazards that are involved in working in that position. Okay, job specification are basically what they require of the person that would be hired in that position. For example, the qualification of the person that gets hired to do that job. Okay, so their qualification, how much experience does he already need to be, how much training does he need, and how much skills does he need to have in order to do the job, and how many responsibilities will the person eventually have, and emotional characteristics and sensory demands. Okay, for example, I'll give you the rest of them are really easy. I'll give you an example of sensory demands, as in, like, for example, I don't know, maybe you are getting hired as a data inputter, right? So you need to be fast in typing. Okay, so the faster you are in typing, the better it is for the company, and so you need to be good at typing, right? So that is sensory, right? So you kind of are really nice. Or maybe you have not heard of this job before, but a taste tester, as in, for example, in a ketchup factory, for example, they would have taste testers whose job it would be to open a bottle in every batch and taste the ketchup. Yeah. Oh, yes, their job is to taste the ketchup in every batch. So ketchup factory. Okay, and maybe, for example, a speaker, maybe you are being hired in a speaker companies that make speakers. Okay, and your job is to sit there and listen to the audio that the speakers make, and to make sure that it's up to the quality and all. So sensory requirements, as to speak. Okay, so one way or the other. Okay. So what happens after that? What does this job description and job specification do? Okay, it will inform about the condition of employment, salary, working hours, pension schemes, training offered, opportunities for promotion, etc. This is given to all prospective candidates, so they know what exactly they would require and expected to do. Okay, so what would be required to do and expected to do. Okay, once this has been done, the HR department will draw up a job specification, a document that outlines the requirement, qualification, expertise, skills, physical, personal characteristics, therefore requirement of by an employee to able to take up the job. So basically, minimum requirements. Okay, so it will tell you the minimum requirements that you need to have in order to get the job. Okay, now that we've done the recruitment process, okay, basically recruitment process is they would get job description, job specification, and get the job advertised. Okay, now we have not finished the first topic, but first topic is intertwined with the second topic, because we haven't recruited anybody. We've just made job descriptions and job specifications. Okay, now to recruit somebody, we have to advertise, right? Okay, now to advertise, we have to understand, okay, that there are two types of recruitment. Okay, there is an internal recruitment and there is an external recruitment. Okay, so when we advertise internally and externally, so as to hire someone, right? So there are, how do you advertise? You advertise internally and you advertise externally. Most companies have let's say an internal intranet, okay, where jobs are advertised as per requirement, and then obviously they are also advertised in the newspaper and such, okay. So now that we have done the advertisement, we still haven't recruited anybody, we have just advertised. Okay, now advertise is the way to get your message through, right? So internally and externally, okay, let me tell you the advantages and disadvantages, right, for internal and external recruitment. Okay, internal recruitment is when a vacancy is filled by an existing employee of the business, right? So for example, maybe your manager wants to become the vice president, okay, and so on and so forth, something like that, right? Maybe your employee wants to become a manager, right? So internal recruitment, for example, if you have a manager's job and an employee applies for the job, okay, so if you recruit him or her, that will be internal recruitment because he's already employed with you and he's just going up the position, right? So there we go. Okay, now internal, we'll also discuss external recruitment, but after the advantages and disadvantages. So advantages of internal recruitment. Okay, internal recruitment saves time and money. No need for advertisement and interviewing, right? Because you've already interviewed the guy and he's already employed with you. What else would you interview, right? So it saves money. Okay, you don't need to advertise. Okay, you don't need to call 100 people for the job so they can come and interview. Okay, so interview time is saved. Okay, advertisement is saved. Okay, you don't need to advertise. Okay, because as soon as the word goes around the company that somebody a manager retired and we need somebody in his place, somebody applies from within the company. Okay, so person already knows the business. Okay, a person already known to business, right? So a person already known to business, the business already knows who the guy is, has been working for us for a certain amount of time and whatever, so they already know him, so no need to advertise, no need to interview. You really just give the guy the job, really, if he qualifies the minimum requirements and whatnot. Okay, person knows the business ways of working, right? So for example, if he's an employee and the job is for a manager and he applies for a managerial job, okay, he already knows the responsibility and the way the company works, and he already knows the responsibility of the manager because manager has been working with him, right? So he already knows the job of the manager and he already knows the responsibilities of the manager and he's already been working there, so no big deal. Okay, and then motivating for other employees to see their colleague being promoted, urging them to work hard so they can be next, right? So means when you are for example, you get a position of a manager's position and you apply for it and you get a manager's job, okay, then others can work hard, so when you retire or when you promote still further, okay, they can take your place. Okay, they get encouraged, as in like, if you work hard, okay, we could be the next one who is promoted. Obviously with promotion comes higher salary. Okay, so it's kind of a promotion and then you get higher salary for it. Okay, so there are disadvantages. Okay, there are disadvantages. Yes, there is an advantage and disadvantage to everything. Okay, what are the disadvantages of internal recruitment? Okay, no job skill and experience coming into the business. Okay, so sorry, cut that. No new skills or experience coming into the business. Okay, so the business, when you hire somebody from outside, you get experience coming in, the people with different backgrounds and everything. But internal recruitment, you don't get any new experience, because the guy has been working with you already. Okay, and you don't get any new experience or any new skills out of him. Okay, and that could be one disadvantage. Second is jealousy among workers. Okay, workers get jealous, right? For example, maybe a managerial job comes up and 5 people apply for it, and one gets the job, other 4 are jealous. Anyway, so they are jealous, and jealousy is not good for morals. And there we are. So with the advantages and disadvantages finished of internal recruitment, we come to external recruitment. Now, first we have to understand. I'll explain you the rest of the process of the recruitment. Okay, because internal recruitment is quite small. It's not very interesting. It's very easy and stuff. Now, external recruitment is a bit longer. Okay, external recruitment is when a vacancy is filled by someone who is not an existing employee and will be new to the business. Okay, so external recruitment needs to be advertised. Unlike internal recruitment, this can be done by local newspaper, specialized magazine, and journals. Okay, job centers run by the government, and where job vacancies are posted and given to interested people, usually unskilled or semi-skilled jobs. Okay, or even recruitment agencies. Okay, who will recruit and send among candidates to the company when they request it. Okay, so external recruitment, you kind of advertise on newspapers and job centers and all, and advertising agencies, and they will send you people and advertise. When you advertise, people will give you a call, I want this job and stuff. So this is called external recruitment, and this is how you advertise it. Okay, when advertising a job, the business needs to decide what should be included in the advertisement, where it should be advertised, and how much will it cost, whether it will be cost effective. Okay, so what do you want? You want the maximum result. Okay, however, you don't want unrelevant results. Okay, for example, you were to, let's say, advertise, like, for example, if you advertise in a newspaper, okay, and you don't put enough relevant information, or you don't put the minimum experience required and whatnot, and everybody gives you a call, and you don't actually need everybody, you need specific people for the job, and you need a specific skill that people don't have, or people start calling you and asking you for more vacancies that you might have, instead of applying for the one that you have advertised. Anyway, when a person is interested in a job, obviously they should apply for it by sending a curriculum vitae, okay, or CV or resume. Okay, this will detail the person's qualification, experience, qualities, and skills. The business will use these to see which candidates match the job specification. It will also include statements and why candidates, feel they are suitable for the job. Okay, however, everybody lies on their CVs, and not everybody tells the truth, and statement is a joke. Okay, because you make a usual statement, just give it to everybody, and it's not specific. However, if you are applying for a high level job, you try to make it as specific as you can. Okay, so there we have it. Okay, so that is advertisement, internal and external. Okay, with all that done, internal advertisement, external advertisement, we still haven't selected anybody. Okay, so let's go to the selection process. Okay, so selecting applicants who have shortlisted will be interviewed, right? So what the HR does, matches your CVs, your experiences with what they require, and then shortlist somebody. Okay, so they make a shorter list. Okay, they clear out all the irrelevant people. Okay, and they make a short list. Okay, when they make a short list, they will also call upon references provided by the applicant. They might call the references before time or maybe after the interview. Maybe they call it before an interview, just to make sure the person who is coming is reliable and has good references, and they might just do it after the interview. Okay, so they might do it in both cases. They might just call up the references, make sure that you are good enough for the interview, and then call you up and tell you, come for the interview. Okay, or they might first interview you and then call the references. Okay, however, if they call the references before calling you, okay, what they are doing is they are taking some help, okay, for the applicant's ability to do the job. Okay, so for example, if you give your previous employer's number, okay, they will take this opportunity to give him a call and ask him whether they should hire him seriously. Okay, person qualifies for the personal qualities of the applicant. So they would like to know from the manager what kind of a person he is, and what he does and stuff. Okay, and his character and personalities. Okay, so when they give a call before they give in a call to you for interview, they call your references. Okay, that means they want some help in knowing who the person is, how the person is, before they do your interview. And for example, if they give you a call for the interview before the references, then first they want to know you, okay, and then they want to ask the previous employees or your references who you are, how you are, and what to do with you. Okay, so basically sometimes they'll only call references once you've passed the interview. Sometimes they'll call the references before they interview you to know whether they want to interview you or not, right? In addition to interview, firms can conduct certain tests to select the best candidates, right? This could include skill test, the ability to do the job, aptitude test, candidates' potential to gain additional skills, and personality test. What kind of personality the candidate has, will it be suitable for the job, group situation tested, how they manage and work in teams, etc. Okay, so they might conduct this test, just to make sure that you can work according to what they want you to do work at. Okay, when successful, the candidate is selected. The others must be sent a letter of rejection. Okay, so now we have selected a candidate, and now we have sent everybody else the letter of rejection. Okay, so now that we have actually finally selected somebody, actually recruited somebody for the job after all the interview and the test and everything, okay, now we have to make a contract. Okay, it's a legal agreement between employer and employee, okay, listing the rights and responsibilities of workers. Okay, it will include the name of the employer and employee. Okay, so obviously, the first thing a contract should have is the name of the employer and the employee. The job title, okay, what job are you hired at, the date when employment will begin, hours of work, rate of pay, and other benefits, when payment is made. Okay, for example, if you're paid bi-weekly, weekly, or monthly, or whatever. Okay, holiday entitlement, so how much holiday can you get in a year, for example. Okay, the amount of notice to be given to terminate the employment that the employer or employees must give at the end of the employment, etc. Okay, employment contracts will be part-time or full-time, right? So there are two types of contracts, part-time and full-time. Part-time employees is often considered to be between 1 and 30 to 35 hours and a week. Okay, so if you work from 1 hour a week to 30 to 35 hours a week, you are a part-time employee. Okay, whereas a full-time employee works more than 35 hours a week. Okay, now that we have I have already taught you the recruitment selection method. Okay, difference between internal recruitment and external recruitment, main stages of recruitment and selection of employees. Okay, so all the stages that we've been through. Okay, recommend and justify to who employ is given just recommend and justify who to employ in a given circumstances. So the test part, they give you certain tests and all, just to justify whether you are suitable for the position or not. And benefit, now we come to the benefits and limitation of part-time employees and full-time employees. Okay, so I'll tell you the advantages and disadvantages, right? So the benefits and limitations, advantages or disadvantages. Okay, do understand that the advantages, the first thing I'll be working with is advantages of employing a part-time employee, which are also the disadvantages of recruiting a full-time employee. Okay, so they are the same, right? So let's not repeat it two times. I'll just tell you advantages of employing a part-time employee, which are also the disadvantages of employing a full-time employee. Okay, more flexible hours of work. Okay, so a part-time employee advantage is they are more flexible hours, they have more flexible hours of work. Okay, which is also a disadvantage. If you have a full-time employee, you don't have a flexible hours of work. Okay, now another advantage of a part-time employee, easier to ask employees just to work at busy hours. Okay, whereas a full-time employee has to work all the hours whether they are busy or not. Okay, easier to extend businesses operating time by working evenings or at weekends. Okay, so full-time employees might not want to work on weekends. For example, they want to work, I don't know, 6 days a week, whereas a part-time employee can be asked to come and work on the weekend. Okay, and evenings or early mornings or something like that, right? Works lesser hours, so employee is willing to accept lower pay. Okay, so a part-time employee works lesser hours, so employee, the person who is working, is willing to accept lower pay because he's only working part-time, okay, and not working full-time. Okay, which is another disadvantage for the full-time employee, as they would not accept lower pay because they're working full-time. Okay, less expensive than employing a paying full-time workers. Okay, so advantage of a part-time is less expensive than the workers that are working full-time. Okay, however, you do understand we need full-time employees, otherwise how are you going to run the business anyway. Disadvantages to now we come to the disadvantages, right? So disadvantages of employing a part-time employee, okay, which are also advantages. The opposite is true for advantages of full-time employee and employers, right? So disadvantages, okay, of part-time employees, less likely to be trained because the worker see the job as temporary. Okay, so part-time disadvantages is that they see the job as temporary job and not a permanent full-time job, right? Whereas the opposite is true for full-time employees. Part-time employees take longer to recruit 2 part-time workers than 1 full-time worker. Okay, takes longer to recruit. Okay, it takes longer to employ 2 part-time workers instead of 1 full-time worker, right? Because 2 interviews, 2 CVs, 2 times, 2 people, they have to come, they have to give the interview and all. So if 10 people come to the interview and you have to select any 2, then you need to interview 2 and make sure that they have enough time to come on certain times. Okay, so it takes longer to recruit them. Okay, disadvantages, or another disadvantage of a part-time employee is can be less committed to the business, more likely to leave and get another job. Okay, so if you're only working somewhere part-time, you're more likely to leave them and get some other job, unless you're working full time, which you kind of fixed at the job and stuff, right? So there we are. A part-time employee is less likely to be promoted because they will not gain the skills and experience as full-time employees, right? So for example, if you spend 5 minutes if you spend 5 hours at a job, you are less trained than a person who spends the whole day at job, right? So another disadvantage of a part-time employee is more difficult to communicate, as part-time workers, when they are not in work, all work at different times, right? So for example, if you have 10 part-time employees and they work, I don't know, 5 work at day and 5 work at night, then you need to announce whatever you want to announce 2 times, okay? Whereas full-time employees work from day to night, and it is much easier to just announce once if there is a change, and that's about it. Okay, so now we have finished 2.3.1. Now we'll be moving to 2.3.2, the importance of training and the methods of training. Okay, the first point we'll be covering is importance of training to a business and to employees. Okay, so why give training to your employees? Okay, well, is there a serious need to give training to your employees? Okay, and why should you give training to your employees, right? So training is important to a business, as it will improve the workers' skills and knowledge and help the business be more effective and productive, right? So especially when a new process and products are introduced, it will improve the workers' chances of getting promoted and raise their morale. Okay, so for example, you're working at a company and then a new machinery has been introduced. Okay, now you need to be trained to use that machinery, right? So when you need to be trained to use that machinery, number one, you gain knowledge. Okay, then you know how to use that machinery, plus then it gets easier for you to be promoted, as you know how to use the machine, whereas other people or other employees might not. Okay, there are 3 types of trainings. Okay, number 1 is called induction training. Okay, so I'll be also talking about the advantages and disadvantages quite fast. Okay, there are 3 types of trainings: induction training, on the job training, okay, and off the job training. Okay, so there are 3 types of training. I'll just go through it really fast. You just need to know the 3 types of training. I would go through it. Okay, so induction training, an introduction given to a new employee. Okay, explaining the firm's activity, customs, procedures, and introducing them to fellow workers. Okay, so this is basically induction. Okay, so you come into a company and they train you how the company works and what you need to do for the company. Okay, so what are the advantages of this? Okay, this helps new employees to settle in the job quickly. Okay, as you get introduced to a couple of people and you know how the company works. So induction training is kind of important. You can't just bring a person and dump him and expect him to do things according to you. Okay, maybe legally required for health and safety training before the start of work. Okay, so maybe they need to tell, this place is hazardous, please don't enter, or watch your step. Okay, some things that a new employee might not know, whereas the old employees know it well. Okay, less likely to make mistakes, because, and this is another advantage, obviously, they are less likely to make mistakes after the induction training, because now they know what they are doing or what to not do, as to speak. Okay, so what are the disadvantages of induction training? They are time consuming, right? So you need to take the person around the company and make sure he knows what he's doing. Okay, wages still have to be paid during the training, even though they aren't working. Okay, so even though you're just telling them what the company is all about and what the company does, you still have to pay them. Okay, delays the state of employees starting the job. Okay, so for example, you start working today, but today is your induction. Okay, you start working tomorrow. as to speak. Okay, so this delays the person from actually joining and doing the job. Okay, so another type of job we'll be talking about is on the job training. Okay, this is another training that we're talking about. On the job training occurs by watching more experienced workers do their job. Okay, so when you watch other experienced people do their job, this is called on the job training. Okay, advantages of it is it ensures there is some production from worker while they are training. Okay, so they are making something while they are training. They're not just standing there and looking at stuff, and they're actually doing something. Even if they're not doing it at full speed or don't know exactly what to do, but they're still doing something. For example, a senior would tell them to do something, and they would do it. So they make something, they give you some output. Okay, so that is advantage number one. Number two is it usually costs less than off the job training. Okay, I will be talking about off the job later. Okay, so I'll tell you there. It is training to the specific needs of the business. Okay, so the training is tailored to the specific need of the business, so that you can know how the seniors do it, how the people before you do it, and then you can just follow them, kind of thing, right? And the disadvantages is the trainer will lose some production time as they are taking some time to teach the new employee, right? So the guy who's senior than you in the company is taking some time to teach you, so he would lose some output or production because he's busy in teaching you. So as well as doing his job, he's also busy in teaching you how to do the job, so you can also do the job, right? The training may have bad habits that can be passed on to the trainee. Okay, so the trainer might have bad habits that can be passed on to trainee. For example, the right way to do something is something else, right? But then he will tell you a shortcut which you will start following from that day on, because that is what you've been taught, and that is actually bad. Okay, a person coming from outside would have different way of doing things, and that might be nice. That might be a better way of doing things, you see? So you pick up bad habits from previous employees or trainers, right? So another one we will be talking about, another training we'll be talking about is off the job training. Okay, involves being trained away from the workplace, usually by specialized trainers. Okay, so that is another way of training somebody. Okay, the advantages is a broad range of skill can be taught using these techniques. Okay, so many techniques can be taught. Maybe, for example, you're working at a wood factory for 10 years. Okay, they can teach you a new skill, as to speak. Okay, employees may be taught a variety of skills, and they may become multi-skilled, that can allow them to do various jobs in the company when the need arises. Okay, so they might not be needed on the spot. Okay, but when the need arises, you are trained to do another job. Okay, for example, if somebody goes sick and the line stops, okay, then you can do that specific job and get the line working again. Okay, now we come to the disadvantages. Okay, costs are higher. Obviously, you need to hire a trainer, you need to hire a venue, okay, and then teach somebody, so the cost to the company would be higher. Okay, it means wages are paid, but no work is being done by the worker. Okay, they're still getting paid for the training, okay, but they're not working, right? So that's a disadvantage. Okay, the additional qualification means it is easier for the employee to leave to find another job. Okay, so for example, you've been given a qualification. Okay, you acquired that qualification, and now you have a certificate of doing a certain job. They might just leave the previous company and just join another job which pays more for that skill. Okay, so those are the advantages and disadvantages of induction training, on the site training, and off the site training. Okay, so with that, we come to the end of 2.3.2, and now we move to 2.3.3. okay, which is why reduce the size of the workforce might be necessary. Why reducing the size of the workforce might be necessary. Okay, so the first thing we'll be studying is difference between dismissal and redundancy. Okay, with examples. Okay, so first of all, we have to understand workforce planning, right? What is a workforce planning? The establishing of the workforce needed by the business for the foreseeable future in terms of the number of skills of employees required. Okay, their work has to they may have to downsize. Okay, for example, maybe not much work is coming next month or something, so they might need to downsize the workforce. Okay, because of maybe the introduction of automation. Okay, so maybe they're buying a new machinery and they see, well, with this new machinery we need 10 workers less. Okay, or maybe this machinery will do 10 people's job, so let's buy this machine and fire 10 people. Okay, so that is workforce planning. Okay, failing demand of their products. Okay, so maybe people don't want to buy their products. Okay, if it's, for example, a cold cream, okay, then people might not want it in warm weathers. Okay, or if it's a sunscreen, people might not want it in cold weather. Okay, so falling demand. So for example, maybe they need more employees for 6 months and less employees for the next 6 months. So that is workforce planning for you. Okay, factory, shops, or offices closure. Okay, so there might be downsizing because their factory or their shop or their office is being closed. Okay, they're going to close the branch permanently, as to speak. Okay, relocating factory abroad. Okay, so they might be taking the whole factory abroad, so they might need to downsize. A business has merged or been taken over and some jobs are no longer needed. Okay, so that could be one reason. Okay, where a business has been merged or taken over by another job and you are no longer needed. Okay, so this is why you downsize. Now, how do you downsize? There are two ways you can downsize. Okay, number one is dismissal, where a worker is told to leave the job because their work or behavior is unsatisfactory. Okay, so if your work or your behavior is unsatisfactory, you are dismissed. Okay, number two you can do is redundancy. Okay, when an employee is no longer needed and so loses their work, so not due to the fault of theirs, they may be given some money as compensation for the redundancy. Okay, so redundancy is when you lose the job out of no fault of your own. Obviously, it's not your fault that you lost a job. Maybe they're downsizing and then your skill is no longer needed. Okay, so redundancy. Okay, workers could also resign. They are leaving because they have found another job or retire. They're getting old and they want to stop working. Okay, so dismissal and redundancy is what the chapter wants me to teach you, right? With examples. Okay, so I have done that, I think. Okay, another way a person can leave is by resigning or retiring. Okay, so that's that. Okay, understanding situation in which downsizing the workforce may be necessary. Automation, reduction, and demand in products. I've already told you that, in different order. Okay, recommend and justify which employee to make redundant in given circumstances. So I've already kind of told you how recommend and justify this you have to do in a question. Okay, I don't actually have a question, so there we have it. Okay, legal control. Now we come to the 2.3.4, legal controls over employment issues and their impacts on employees and employers. Okay, legal control over employees contracts, unfair dismissal, discrimination, health and safety, legal minimum wages. Okay, so legal controls. Okay, this is the interesting topic. Okay, because if you're working somewhere, you need to know this. You need to know your rights. Okay, so legal control over employment issues, as to speak. Okay, there are a lot of government laws that affect equal employment opportunities. These laws require businesses to treat their employees equally in the workplace, and when being recruited and selected, these should not discriminate between age, gender, religion, and race, etc. Okay, employees are protected in many areas, including, okay, I'll tell you, including what, against unfair dismissal. They are protected against unfair dismissal. So if they dismiss you because they don't like you, they can't actually do that. Okay, so unfair, you have to have a fault in order to get an fair dismissal. You can't just, one day you're working and the second day you're not. That's unfair dismissal, right? And then health and safety at work. Okay, protection from dangerous machinery, safety, clothing and equipment, hygiene conditions, medical aids, and etc. Okay, they are protected against it. Okay, and then they are also protected from unfair discrimination. Okay, so for example, they can't discriminate you because of your sex or your age or your gender. Okay, so that's they are protected against that. And wages protection, the government also protects your wages. For example, many countries have legal minimum wage, where you are protected from having a minimum wage and you cannot have less than that. Okay, so that is standard of that increases the standard of living. As an employee, employer can't give employee any less money than the legal requirement, right? So if you hire somebody, you have to give him a certain amount of money, and that is what the employer gives. An additional information is an industrial tribune is a legal meeting which considers workers' complaints and unfair dismissal or dismissal at work. This will hear both sides of the case and may give workers compensation if the dismissal is unfair. Okay, so there is someone to listen to you. Okay, now we have finally finished chapter 2.3.4. Which comes to the end of chapter 2.3, recruitment, selecting and training of employees. Okay, as always, I tell you, when listening to my lectures, okay, make sure you take no notes. Okay, don't take notes, don't make, don't waste paper. Okay, make sure you understand what I am saying. Okay, keep it in your mind rather than learning it. Okay, so basically, if you have been through the situation, I don't think you have, because you're doing O levels. I don't think you have already been through a couple of jobs and you don't actually understand the whole process quite fairly, I would say. So try to understand what I'm saying. Okay, you have any questions, you don't understand something, leave me a comment below. I will answer. If I will answer you, I will try to make you understand. If I can't make you understand, I will make another video about the specific topic that you might not understand, and we'll see what we can do from there. I will make sure you understand. I will make sure the topic sits in your brain instead of on notes. Okay, you don't need to make notes. There is no need of notes. Once you understand the topic, really nobody can actually take away that knowledge from you. Okay, with that being said, this is your host Mohsin Bukhari signing out.